It's time now for a look at the world's business news. The World Bank is saying that the global economy could slip into a long period of stagflation as the double whammy of the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine has slowed growth. Our business editor, Yuka Royer, is here with more.
Well, Erin, the warning came as the World Bank lowered its global growth forecast for this year to 2.9%. That's a drop of 1.2% from its earlier forecast back in January. The global economy grew 5.7% last year as it reopened from the pandemic, but supply disruptions have persisted and the war has worsened the problem, fueling inflation. The World Bank says the current situation is reminiscent of a period of stagflation in the 1970s, when inflation soared amid sluggish growth and called for improved monetary policy frameworks. James McHolland reports.
Recession will be hard to avoid, a stark warning from the World Bank for both developing and advanced economies in its annual growth forecast for 2022. After the post-pandemic recovery of 5.7% growth in 2021, this year the organisation has slashed the outlook to 2.9%. And as inflation continues to rise, the global economy risks slipping into a spiral of weak growth, the organisation warned.
When you look at the global economy as a whole, we downgraded growth numbers for this year for 70% of countries relative to what we had in January. Things have gotten, unfortunately, much worse than what we expected. We were expecting a slowdown. That slowdown is much more pronounced now. Growth is going to go down to 2.9% at the global level.
Russia's war in Ukraine has sent oil and gas and grain prices soaring, raising the prospect of widespread food shortages. This on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic has heightened fears of a protracted period of stagflation.
Because of the war, we have a much larger menu of risks, and these risks, unfortunately, they mutually amplify each other. We can easily find ourselves in the midst of a perfect storm. That type of storm will push growth rate this year to 2% and next year at the global level 1.5%.
The global economy has not fallen into stagflation since the 1970s, when twin oil shocks sapped growth and drove prices skyward.
Inflation is running at a 40-year high in the United States, with prices going up 8.3% over the past year. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told the Senate committee that President Biden's proposed budget bill could help lower costs for households, urging lawmakers to pass the legislation.
We currently face macroeconomic challenges, including unacceptable levels of inflation, as well as the headwinds associated with the disruptions caused by the pandemic's effect on supply chains and the effects of supply-side disturbances to oil and food markets resulting from Russia's war in Ukraine. To dampen inflationary pressures without undermining the strength of the labor market, an appropriate budgetary stance is needed to complement monetary policy actions by the Federal Reserve.
That was the US Treasury Secretary speaking earlier. With that, let's look at the markets now. And Asian markets are a mixed bag this Wednesday, with Tokyo, Hong Kong and Seoul up in positive territory, Shanghai dipping just below the flat line there. Australia's antitrust regulator has sued Airbnb over its price displays. The Competition and Consumer Commission is accusing the company of misleading users into paying more than advertised for their stays by displaying prices in US dollars rather than Australian dollars. Currently, $1 Australian dollar is worth about 70 US cents. Airbnb also allegedly told thousands of complaining customers that the prices had been displayed in the American currency from the start, when it was often not the case. The problem occurred from 2018 to last year. Airbnb's country manager says the platform has since been updated to clearly display relevant currencies. In the United States, a judge in California gave a 2-week deadline to a black former Tesla worker whether to accept a $15 million payout to settle a racial abuse case. Owen Diaz, who worked for 9 months at the carmaker's factory in 2015 and 2016, had alleged that he suffered racial discrimination and a hostile work environment at the hands of his colleagues and supervisor. Last October, a jury awarded him $137 million in damages. While rejecting Tesla's demand for a new trial, the judge ruled that the jury award was excessive. PayPal has decided to allow users to withdraw or transfer cryptocurrencies outside of its platform for the first time. The online payment service started enabling customers to buy, sell and hold digital coins like Bitcoin back in October 2020, but they couldn't transfer them to external wallets. The new feature is available to select users in the United States. Once it expands, it will enable more people to use the crypto they've been sitting on. PayPal claims over 400 million users worldwide. Now, if you're like me, who always forget to take the right phone charger when going out, you may rejoice at hearing that the European Union has agreed on a law that will force smartphone makers like Apple to use a single standard USB Type-C charging port, at least for devices sold within the bloc.
No more drawers cluttered with cables. The never-ending quest for the right charger will soon be a thing of the past, at least in Europe. The EU on Tuesday approved the text for a new law imposing a standard plug for all electronic devices, a move aimed at encouraging sustainability and reducing waste.
These new rules will save more than 1,000 tons of electronic waste per year, and also an annual reduction of almost 200 kilos of CO2.
The EU says 500 million device chargers are shipped in Europe annually, generating as much as 13,000 tons of e-waste each year. The change will save consumers an estimated 250 million euros, according to Brussels. One plug to charge them all. And the future will be USB-C. The new rules cover 15 devices, including mobile phones, tablets, e-readers, portable speakers and digital cameras, among others. The move had been opposed by electronics juggernaut Apple, which already uses USB-C on some of its devices, but it says the one-size-fits-all solution will slow innovation and, in fact, create more pollution.
In 2 years' time, if Apple wants to market their products, sell their products within our internal market, they have to abide by our rules.
Tuesday's announcement comes more than a decade after European lawmakers first pushed for a universal charger. The decision is to be formally ratified later this year and will take effect by autumn 2024 in order to give companies time to comply.
One size fits all for smartphones. Erin, I wonder why it took so long.
Certainly going to make our lives as consumers easier. Yuka Roye, thank you very much.